Okay, what I'm going to do today is show you the process of tweening or in-betweening. So here's a Wikipedia page about that, and you can see that tweening is the process in all types of animation, including computer animation, and it's the process of generating intermediate frames between two images, and the two images are called a keyframe, which gives the appearance that the first image evolves smoothly into the second image. So the other day we did a cell-based animation in Photoshop, and I gave you the challenge of trying to create a rocket ship which was blasting off. So what I've done here is I've drawn my rocket ship for me in Photoshop, and Tweening will automatically create all of the frames in between the first frame and the final frame. So the other day when we created our animation, we went about creating that first frame, then we created a second frame and moved it slightly, then we created a third frame and moved it slightly, and so on, until we had enough frames to make it look like our rocket was taking off. What tweening does is all you have to do is give the computer the first frame and the last frame, and the computer does all of the tweening, the in-betweening, to create all of the images that you need to create your animation. So here we've got our first frame. Remember that to turn the timeline on, you go to the Window tab and then choose Timeline, and that'll give you this down the bottom. And we also want a frame-based animation rather than a video animation. So if you hover over that button, you'll see that if I push that, it's going to convert it to a video timeline. If you're already in a video timeline, then you'd push it and bring it back to a cell-based or frame-based animation. Okay, so here's our first cell, our first frame, and what we're going to do is copy that frame. So we've now got two. You can see there, one and our second frame. You can also decide how long each frame is going to play for. So let's today make them, actually we'll just leave them with the default there, and we can change them later if we need to. Now remember, you can't animate your background. You can only animate things that are on a layer. And so what I've got here at the moment is, you can see I've got the layer 1, which is the flame, and the top layer there, which is going to be my rocket. Now I want both my flame and my rocket to move to the top of the screen. So I'm going to choose my selection tool and hold down Shift so that I can choose both of those objects, both frames. And then I'm going to grab my rocket and I'm just going to move it straight up. And you can see it gives you a number of guides to make sure you're going straight. And I'm going to go all the way to the very top of the screen and then drop it at the top of the screen. There we go. So you can now see frame 1 is the rocket down at the bottom, and frame 2 is the rocket right up at the top. Now while I'm on frame number 2, I'm going to come down here to this button on the timeline, and you'll see that when I hover over it, it says that it tweens the animation frames. So this is the button we're going to use, or tool we're going to use, to create the in-betweening, to create all of the frames we want between those two frames. Because if we play that after 5 seconds, which is my current delay, there we go, it looks pretty dodgy at the moment. So if we go to our frame 2, push the tweening button, and you'll then see how many frames do you want to add. And so we can choose how many frames we want to add. We're going to add it for all of the layers. You could just do this for a couple of the layers if you wanted to. And it's going to change its position, opacity, and effects based on that. Now we've only changed its position, but if you had used those other things, then it would also create the in-betweening frames for those. Then we say OK, and you'll see that it creates automatically for us all of those frames. Now this is going to be a very slow animation because I left that at 5 seconds. So I'm going to drop that back down for all of my frames to 0.2 seconds. I should have just changed it when I said I was going to, so that it was 0.2. 0.2. I probably could have selected all and made them all 0.2, which would have been much more efficient. So 0.2 is still quite slow because it's going to show each frame for 0.2 of a second. But now if we play that, you'll see our animation takes off. And now if you wanted it to go faster, then you can change that to 0.1. Let's try selecting them all and going 0.1. Look at that. That's a much easier way. Then press play, and you can see your rocket takes off. And so that's going to use tweening to create those extra frames for you. You create the two keyframes, the first frame and the last frame, and the computer does the processing for you to create the in-between frames.